While it's not surprising that the Prime Minister's approval rating would have taken a hit during the Wee scandal, what may surprise you is that 44% of Canadians still approve of the job the Prime Minister is doing. That's according to a new poll released by Angus Reid, which shows that more than half of Canadians saying that their opinion of the Prime Minister has decreased because of the latest scandals. Now, there have been a number of scandals involving the Prime Minister directly, and they have definitely hurt his brand, and by extension the Liberal Party brand. But what I want to do is take a bit of a deeper dive into the data by Angus Reid and see what we can't figure out and what we might be able to learn about Canadians and about their opinion on Canadian politics, because there are some really interesting gems according to what I saw from even just a quick review. So here we have the data. This is the Angus Reid website, and this is the full data that they made public about the recent poll. So you can see here, this is the first chart, the approval or disapproval rating of Justin Trudeau, and it starts from 2019. Now, he's been hovering at about 60% for much of that time. Around here, February, March, April, you've got COVID, and so he's a disapproval rating really went down to 44%, approval up to 54%. This may be what's called a rally round the flag effect. So that is basically when there is some national crisis or some tragedy or incident, the people may support their leader in a much stronger way because of some patriotic effect. That could really be seen, I think, with George Bush following the September 11 attacks, where his approval rating skyrocketed in the immediate aftermath of the attacks. But as you may know, his approval rating was always quite low. Again, we can talk about that being skewed, and we'll get into some of that as we look at the data here about what skewed polling might look like. I know that these days people seem to be hesitant to say that they support conservatives. That's really happening a lot in the States, and I'm really curious actually if that's happening here. But this is the approval rating. The interesting thing to note on this one is that his disapproval rating, so the red, his disapproval rating is actually lower than when we started on this graph in October 2019. So as much as the Wee scandal has hurt him and hurt the government, according to this data, it's actually better for him. His approval rating has actually gone up, and his disapproval rating is lower than when we started. Again, let's compare 54 disapprove, 44 approve, compared to 60% disapprove and 35% approve. So oddly enough, it seems to be an increase, and that's kind of interesting. And so let's take a look. Let's see if they break down who's supporting by party, by age, by a couple of other things that surveys tend to ask. So you have the engagement rates. Here is the percentage of Canadians that selected ethics or corruption as a top issue. This one is kind of interesting to me because the scandals really were going on for quite a long time. I don't know if blackface would have been counted under this. Maybe people don't really see blackface or the alleged groping incident as an ethics/corruption incident issue. I mean, I would think it's ethics. Doing blackface or allegedly groping someone is definitely it's not ethical behavior. But it's interesting that this it may translate in this way according to polling, but it's still not that high. About 16% say that it's their top issue, and that's obviously understandable. So here we have the top issues. This is according to all of the respondents, 1,519 respondents according to this Angus Reid poll. And again, I'm taking this for the analysis, for analytical purposes here. I'm just taking this factually. I'm not going to go into their methodology or anything unless there's something really glaring. But let's just take it as is, and we can discuss. So 40% feel that coronavirus and the COVID-19 response is the top issue. Totally understandable. That is also tied into the economy and healthcare. I would really say that these are pretty much all the same thing. And that is almost 100% of people if you really broke it down, because you can't really talk about the coronavirus without also talking about the economy, without also talking about our healthcare system. Surprising is that 27% according to the people selected up to 3, 27% still had environmental climate change as one of the top issues. I would have thought it would be a bit more drowned out. Government spending, again, that's sort of a COVID issue. Income inequality, again, maybe that's tied to the economy or COVID, but it's an issue, definitely an issue worth discussing. But interesting that it's still mid-range here. Jobs, unemployment, ethics, corruption, Wee scandal here down at the bottom. Housing affordability, that one, to be honest, I didn't expect that one. I know that that's a serious issue in a lot of metropolitan areas. I myself am in the GTA. That's a serious issue in the GTA, but it's still kind of surprising that it's up there. And then taxes, 11. A lot of these can be categorized though. So this is sort of what Canadians are thinking about, and the Wee scandal ranks pretty low on this according to the survey. But Here is one of the more interesting ones. So this is broken down, thinking about this situation, which view is closest to your own? This is the question that was asked. So according to, this is the total, all 1,500 Canadians. Now, this is Canadians that identify as Conservative Party supporters. This is Canadians that identified in the survey as Liberal Party supporters, and Canadians that identified as NDP supporters. So here we go. According to the survey, thinking about the situation, which view is closest to your own? So the red means this is a serious issue and is significant. Blue means this issue has been overblown by the media and opposition parties, and gray is not sure. Conservative Party members very, very strongly, almost unanimous. I don't know what the margin of error in the survey here, but almost, unanimous on the fact that this is a serious and significant issue. And I think this speaks to sort of the conservative base, a lot of the conservative mindset, very interested in fairness, very interested in ethics, very interested in, the rule of law, legal rights, these kind of things. This is a big focus, and rightfully so. It's not, not something to belittle here. I'm not belittling that, but rightfully so, this is a serious issue, and I think that the majority of Conservative Party supporters that are taking issue with this are not simply doing it because it is the opposite guy. I think that there would be a lot of anger, and historically this is sort of one of Reagan's 11th commandments, do not criticize other conservatives, and he said that because there's often a lot of criticism of other conservatives by conservatives, and so it is not really surprising that 91% think this is a serious and significant issue. And again, this isn't the first scandal of the Prime Minister, and this really is a serious issue on many levels. So, this is not at all surprising. Liberal Party supporters. This is kind of surprising, and I would like to ask a number of follow-up questions, but let's just tackle this first. This issue is serious and significant, 30%. This issue has been overblown by the media and opposition parties, 60%. Not sure, can't say why, 10%. So 60% of Liberal Party supporters really think that this issue has been overblown by the media and opposition parties. So I've got to ask these people a question. If this were the first scandal, or the only scandal, I could hear it. I could hear you think it's overblown, there's, a number of different things. But my question is, the story has evolved a lot of times. There have been a number of people, first it was cabinet, first it was the bureaucracy, then it was cabinet, then it was finance minister, then it was Bardish Chagger, then it was all these people. And so the story really is just evolving, and now it turns out, according to a more recent report, which I don't have up here, according to a more recent report, about 30 million was supposed to go to administrative costs early on in the program. So for we to administer the program, they were going to get about 30-something million, and this is sort of upfront. So this is before you've even accomplished anything. It's not like a work bonus where, good job, you get, some kind of bonus per employee. This is upfront. So the story really keeps on evolving, and again, it's a question for people who identify as liberals. Why do you think this issue has been overblown? In what ways do you think this issue has been overblown? And why do you think the media and opposition parties are, usually together in this? I know a conservative criticism, which has a lot of merit, is often that the media is supportive of the Prime Minister, supportive of the Trudeau government, and just looking to hammer, I guess mostly the Conservatives, according to the complaints. But why do you Liberal Party supporters think that this is the case? That is a serious question. Again, also in the context of the numerous scandals of this government. NDP supporters, that one is kind of interesting. They're, almost, not neck and neck, but 46% think it's significant, and 33% think that it's been overblown by the media. So they're about halfway between Liberal and Conservative party members. But that was kind of interesting, because you could say that they're sort of a third party. They're not connected. They have no horse in the game, if you want to look at it from that way, by the polling. But at the same time, again, if there's going to be an election coming up, they, I'm sure, are looking to get more seats. They form the opposition. So it's kind of interesting that, according to the results, it looks like it's, with so many not sure, can't say 21%, it just looks like a bit of confusion, maybe about the WE scandal. So really wondering what that is, and I'd be interested to hear from any NDP supporters what you think, or why you think the results might be this way. What's the perspective there? This one here, this is by province. Interestingly enough, Saskatchewan is the toughest province on this one. Saskatchewan is 77% think this is a serious and significant issue. The rest across the board, pretty even, to be honest, pretty even. The lowest being Atlantic Canada, 52%, but it's not even that low compared to the average, which seems to be about high 50s or so. So not too much disagreement across the country. Maybe the blue is a bit more. You can see Ontario, a lot of support for Prime Minister in Ontario. The lowest support again in Saskatchewan, not surprising. So quite interesting on the region. Now, if you look at where the Prime Minister has a lot of seats, it's going to be in Ontario, Quebec, Atlantic Canada. Even there's not that many seats in general, but Atlantic Canada. So these are really a lot of the support base for the Prime Minister, where they get a lot of seats. So it's interesting to see the difference and the sort of alignment on the numbers. If we go down here, thinking about your feelings and views on the issue, how would you assess what has come to light? This one, again, is more interesting. A simple mistake or error in judgment, 12%. This is about the Wee scandal. An unethical decision, but not a criminal act, 43%. A possible criminal act that should be investigated by police. This is quite interesting. Not even half of people think that it should be investigated by the police. 43% think it is an unethical decision, but not a criminal act. So, this begs a number of questions about our perception of government. Is it possible for the government to do things that are very unethical and yet not criminal? Should they be allowed to do things that are not ethical and are not criminal? Should we amend certain things in the criminal code to ensure that the government, or to try and minimize the amount of unethical behavior by the government? Does this number, 43%, say that we have a low opinion of politicians and their ability to behave ethically? These are interesting questions that I think we should debate, because 43% of people thinking it is an unethical decision but not a criminal act is pretty high. That's almost half of the respondents. 8% again said that they can't say. If you can't say, you may not have been paying attention. You may not know everything about it. This is a poll. Not everyone is fully informed, so 8% saying they can't say. I don't know. Thinking about views and feelings on the issue, how would you assess what has come to light so far? So again, this is broken down by party supporters. So the same question as above here, but broken down by party supporters. This, again, CPC, 77% think it is a possible criminal act that should be investigated by the police. Liberals, 61% say it is an unethical decision but not a criminal act. NDP, stronger, interestingly enough, although the sample size is smaller, stronger, interestingly enough, 65% say that it is an unethical decision but not a criminal act. So now I want to compare these two numbers. Let's look here. 61% think it is an unethical decision but not a criminal act. Let's go back up here. 60% say that this issue has been overblown by the media and opposition parties. So we have almost alignment in the two surveys, and it would be interesting to know which respondents, which of the 61% here were also members of the 60% here. Were they 100% identical? Were they different? Could you say that this is a serious and significant issue, but then also think that it is an unethical decision but not a criminal act? So a number of interesting things, and we don't seem to have that data right now, so there's no way to really figure that out. But 61% of Liberal supporters say it is an unethical decision, but not a criminal act. That also bleeds into the 44% of people who say that they still approve of the job the Prime Minister is doing. And I don't know if that was broken down by party. I don't think that was broken down by party just yet. But 44% of Canadians think the Prime Minister is doing a good job. Which percent of the Canadians think he's doing a good job think that it is a criminal act that should be investigated by the police? Are there any? Which percent of Canadians think it is an unethical decision but not a criminal act? I really would like to see that data, because again, if a lot of the people who think it was an unethical decision but not a criminal act are still in approval of the Prime Minister, what does that really say about your opinion of our political leaders or our political system? That's not really a possibility that I like, and so I really would be curious about the data. I think I'm gonna reach out to Angus Reid, see if there's anything more that they would be able to shed, perhaps even in confidence, and maybe I can just give you sort of an overview. But let's figure that out. This is age and gender. This may be relevant. Let's see here. So a simple mistake, error in judgment. This is the top row. An unethical decision but not a criminal act. This row, possible criminal act that should be investigated by the police, and not sure, can't say why. So the color coding seems to be the highest. Now, it looks like according to these two squares, older men between 35, let's just say from 35 to 55, more than half of older men think it is a possible criminal act that should be investigated by the police. On the female side, the majority of them, it's not more than half on this one, but the majority of them think it is an unethical decision, but not a criminal act. So again, do you think that the government should be allowed to make so many unethical acts? Should we not push for some reforms to try and minimize the unethical acts? How would you even define unethical acts? Is unethical dumping raw sewage into the St. Lawrence River is unethical. Making a program that you know is useless, but is simply like a make-work project for government employees is unethical. Something about, appointing your buddies to seats even though they may be qualified. So what are the definitions? What do they really mean to each person? This is, a lot of these are loaded terms, which really might mean different things to different people, but still the difference in the ages, the difference in the genders might be interesting. Do you approve or disapprove of Justin Trudeau? Again, we have the ratings here. Following the election, high approval rating, and then pretty down. He's got low approval ratings. Here was the sort of COVID response. This may be, again, a rally around the flag effect going up, and then his approval is still 44%. A lot of interesting stuff on this data. Approval by federal vote. Liberals, 82%. Oh, here we go. They did have 82% of Liberals still approve of Justin Trudeau. Again, 82% of people approve of the Prime Minister following blackface, the Aga Khan, alleged groping, the numerous ethics violations that he has been accused of. 82% is pretty high. And this was actually the main point that I wanted to bring up, and the main thing that I thought about while getting an idea to make this video. And that is, why would someone approve so highly of a Prime Minister who's been accused of a number of different things? Now, I'm going to start off with comparing to the United States, because that may shed some light on what's going on here, even though, I don't want to always bring American politics and the American perspective into things. But in the United States, because it's a two-party system, you may feel that regardless of what Trump does, or regardless of what Biden does, voting for the other guy is voting for the end of the country, voting for racism, voting for hatred, voting for any number of horrible things. And so it's kind of I'm going to hold my nose and I'm going to vote for this guy, because if I vote for the other guy, the option is so unpalatable that I simply cannot fathom it. And therefore, I'm going to vote for Trump or Biden, whoever. I'm going to vote for them no matter what they do, because unless they turn into the other guy, they're still going to be better than the other guy. In Canada, though, it's not a two-party system. And I know that there's left and right, and you might say, okay, well, the NDP is on the left. But how many people are switching between, how many diehard people are switching between the Liberal Party and the NDP? There's a lot of talk about a mushy middle, but I'm not sure where that mushy middle is anymore. How many people are really sort of, unaligned? They'll go either way. Politics is definitely becoming more polarized. And so how many people are really, really floating this way? But what is interesting, again, is the Prime Minister's approval rating on NDP, speaking of, not being a two-party system. So, again, following COVID here, this, again, may be a rally around the flag effect. You can see even 20% of Conservatives think that, he's doing a good job as of April, according to Angus Reid. But the numbers have stayed pretty high. And so 61% of NDP, the self-declared NDP supporters, 61% of them support the Prime Minister. That's interesting news for the NDP. If 61% of your party members think he's doing mostly a good job, more than half think that he's doing a good job, I would really ask, well, okay, how are you differentiating yourself as the NDP party from the Liberal Party? What policies do you have that are going to set you aside? Now, with Conservatives, again, 9%, so this is still higher than the original 3% on the 19th. And again, does this mean that the majority of Conservative supporters think that there's nothing the Prime Minister can do right? That's an opinion that a lot of people take. I try and judge it on an incident or on a situation-by-situation basis, so I might applaud him for certain things, and I might smack him down for certain things. Then, maybe I'll make a video about some of the things that I have liked that the Prime Minister has done. But regardless, here we're talking about the data and about the disapproval of Canadians. Again, this is approval, disapproval. This is just sort of a differentiation almost of the chart, the previous chart up here. This was about the Criminal Act, and this is about the approval, disapproval. So, interestingly, strongly disapprove, more males disapprove than females. Now, my question for the women here is, I've criticized very strongly, and a number of women have criticized very strongly, the Prime Minister's behavior towards women. He has proclaimed himself as a staunch feminist, and it looks like that message is really, really sticking. But, in my opinion, his actions do not show that. His actions with Jody Olsen-Raybould, Jane Philpott, with the alleged groping, with a number of different things that he has done with now Bardish Chagger and Selena. I keep on butchering her last name, but there have been a number of people, a number of women who, specifically women, who have come out against the Prime Minister, Leona Alsev, who switched parties. A number of women have come out against the Prime Minister, calling him out for his fake feminism. I really wonder, the message is really hitting home, because it still seems that more than 50% in all three categories, more than 50% of women still approve of Justin Trudeau. But does that mean that they're separating what may be his personal feminism or his personal situation? Is that separating from the politics? Do they like his politics? Do they like the guy? These are questions you don't have answers to from this data, but this is a question that you should ask. If you are a female Trudeau supporter, what is it about the Prime Minister that you support? What is it that you like? And what is it you don't like about the Conservative Party? Right now they have no leader. There is going to be a leadership debate hosted by the Independent Press Gallery, which I'm going to be very excited to watch coming up. But what is it about the Conservatives or the NDP or the Greens or the PPC or the Bloc if you live in Quebec? What is it about those parties that you don't like that would still make you approve of the Prime Minister? Or do you still approve of the Prime Minister even though you vote for the other party? So, a number of interesting questions. Here we go. And over the past month or so, would you say your opinion of the Prime Minister and Liberal Party leader Justin Trudeau has improved, worsened, or stayed the same? So people who said it was a serious and significant issue, 74% think it has worsened. So that's pretty obvious. If you think it's serious and he's done a lot of things, then obviously it won't worsen. My opinion of him is worsened. If you think it's overblown, probably stayed the same. A lot of overlap here with Liberal and some NDP party supporters here. Not sure, can't say, 51%. That's interesting because the not sure, can't say was a small group, 185 compared to almost 900 said that it was significant, and 436 said that it was overblown. But 50% of these people said that they're not sure if it changed their opinion. They don't think so. This one is by gender. Sort of the same stuff up there. Not really much to pull out on this one. This one here. What impact, if any, do you think this will have on the current minority Liberal government? So 56% said a minor impact, that it will embarrass the Liberal government, but ultimately it will survive. 32% said a major impact. This could be the issue that ultimately brings down the government. 12% said no impact at all, and this will be forgotten in a matter of weeks. Now, if you lump in 12% plus the 56%, that gives you 68%. That is a supermajority, to use an American term again. That is a supermajority here, practically. And so you really got to wonder, is this going to bring down the government? It looks like, according to this Angus Reid poll, almost 70% of Canadians say no. It's going to embarrass them, but no, they'll survive. We will probably just, re-elect Justin Trudeau, according to this data. That is a real possibility here. So this is quite interesting because it doesn't jive so much with the people who said their opinion worsened and that it was a serious and significant violation. So again, my question, if almost 68% of people think that it has no impact or a minor impact and the government will survive, but a similar amount think it was a serious and significant issue, what does that say about our politics? What does that say about Canadians and their opinion of their government's ability to deal with scandals, their government's ethics? What does that say about our political system? Have we lost trust in our political system? I know a lot of you in the comments, and I read actually the comments a lot of times, a lot of you in the comments have no faith in the political system, have no faith in the Prime Minister, and that's fine. There's been a lot of disappointment here, but what does that say for the majority of Canadians? Is everyone just jaded? Do we just really have no hope that this will have any effect? What if it turns out there are criminal charges laid? Will that change? Who knows? Because right now, not even, where was the one people calling for a criminal investigation? Only 37% said that shouldn't be even investigated by the police. So, really, really got to wonder on a lot of these questions. Here again, by province, interestingly enough, it's not Saskatchewan who thinks that has a minor impact. The largest group seems to be Atlantic Canada, thinks that has a minor impact. Oh, sorry, no, BC thinks there will be a minor impact. What ability do you think this will have on the current minority Liberal government? CPC, 36% minor impact. Again, is that apathy? You just think that nothing bad will happen to them? They're just Teflon. No scandal will stick. 74% of Liberals, again, minor impact. Is that because you think it will have a minor impact? because you think it is a minor thing, or because you just don't care? Interesting question for Liberals. Same thing for NDP supporters. 70% say it's a minor impact. Really, you should get in touch with your party leaders and see what's up. If I were an NDP operative or some kind of political person, I would really be wondering, okay, where are we? Where do we want to position ourselves? Because where you are right now, there's not really strong differentiation and not really a lot of motivation there. I could be wrong. Please prove me wrong. I'd be interested to find out, but this is what this data at least might say. So a lot of interesting questions. This is about their methodology. This is a lot of stuff here. Obviously, this is one poll, so we don't know the true feelings of Canadians. There's been a lot of discussion. Are Canadians even willing to give their true opinion on some of these polls? Again, the problem seems to be much worse in the United States. I think it was 67 or 68% of people said that they're afraid of expressing their political opinions. The number was much, much higher for conservatives. So, what does this really say? Overall, to be honest, my big takeaways are that people just don't have faith in our political system and our political system's ability to deal with corruption and unethical behavior. It's really, really disappointing. That would be something that I would be interested in hearing from some of the Conservative Party leadership candidates about what they would do, not just about the scandal, but what would you do to reinforce in Canadians the idea that their political system can be trusted, that the system itself is not simply built to let these things slide. Again, we have a parliamentary democracy. We've talked about our political system quite a lot in a couple of these videos. We have a parliamentary system, a Westminster-style parliamentary system, and so if you have a majority government, then technically you have more power internally. So you would have more power. Prime Minister Trudeau would have more power in Canada than Donald Trump does in the United States. And so, again, what are we doing? How are we, that's a question maybe for the Minister of Democratic Reform or the Shadow Minister of Democratic Reform. Maybe I'll ask them, what are we going to do to make sure that these things don't happen? And what are we going to do to minimize some of these ethical violations? So, hope you enjoyed watching this video. I know this was a bit longer, but again, this is what we try to do. This is what I have been asked to do, and what I would like to do here at True North is really going deeper into the story, trying to find out some of the other side, really pull out some of the data and facts, because the mainstream media is not really going to go through this data for you. They're not really going to talk about what these things might mean, and they're not going to give you that in-depth. You might get some, news story that gives you the gist of it, but nothing too in-depth, and that's really what we're trying to do here. So again, for True North, I am Sam Eskenasi. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching, and have yourselves a great day.